Hello and welcome to the third video looking at the skills available to the player character in Mass Effect Andromeda. So we're going to be looking at tech skills today. So tech, as you can probably tell from looking here, is where I invested the vast majority of my points as I have it completely unlocked. Just a quick heads up, the Remnant VI one here actually unlocks through a companion storyline mission and is not available from the start of the game. It will not become available until you've completed, PBs, in case you're wondering which one, although it should be relatively obvious which one, and it does tell you it's PB before it's unlocked. So, just a warning about that one. Alright, let's start at the top then with Overload. So Overload's sort of the base level for tech. It's, if you choose the tech training, you will get Overload as part of it. So it has both the tap, which will just straight up shoot someone, or hold, which can cause it to chain to 2 additional targets. It's got a pretty decent range on the chain. Very good against shields, very good against synthetics. A little bit less damage on the chain, as you can see. So if you charge it, it's 200 versus 150. The chain damage doesn't change. Right. So at rank 2 we get an increase to recharge speed, and at rank 3 we get 15% to all damage. So at rank 4 we get a choice between even more damage or even quicker recharge. Then at rank 5 we can go with Overload, so it changes up to 1 additional target. That would be 3 in total. Or we can up its damage versus shields. You can pretty much eliminate almost any shields in one shot with this upgrade. There are a couple of the more powerful end game creatures, or robots really, I suppose, that doesn't quite do it against, but it takes it to so little that you don't have much left to get through. Right, then at rank 6 we get a choice between 30% chain damage. So it only says that there, but over here you'll notice it actually says change to an additional target when charged and deals the increase. So we now get up to 4 targets and that extra damage on the chain. Right, or EMP, so even more damage versus shields and damage versus synthetics. So this thing fully charged up will destroy stuff. Will destroy shields and synthetics. You can almost one-shot some of the low, well, you can one-shot some of the lower level synthetics actually with a charged up version of this. So yeah. Right, so incinerate. So we've gone from anti-shield to anti-armor here, really. So this is a primer. Overload was a detonator. This is a primer. So they can work really well in combo, although generally you want to be going Overload first, as things tend to have shields, then armor. But if you're running across a big group of armor enemies, hitting them with this, then following up with an Overload can be quite good. Alright, it's got a burn duration, so you get some initial damage plus some damage per second as well. And as you can see, 50% extra damage to armor. Right, at rank 2, we get an increased recharge speed, and rank 3, damage. So rank 4, we can give it a radius. I have actually tried out the radius. It's not too bad, but enemies do have to be fairly clumped. 2 meters isn't quite that big. So it's a bit iffy on how useful it is, but it was okay. In the end, though, you can see I end up switching for the burning, as you get increased damage over time and increased duration. Just because I found that a lot of the things with armor were big things, and having more damage essentially being applied to them was good. Also, the longer the burn's going, the longer you have to then detonate it. So as long as they're burning, they're considered primed. Right, at rank 5, impact, increase 2 initial damage. In the end, I just decided to go for this. More damage versus armor. So I already had a lot of damage going on to shields. I needed something to really help me deal with the armor. So I buffed up the damaged armor with this. But if you just want straight up more damage in general, this is the way to go. Right, so at rank 6, we can make it a detonator. Now, this is because of the build I went with, so the idea is I can smack them with overload, their shields go, then I followed up with this. So I have overload doing it, then this, and then I have my third one, which we'll get to shortly, and then that would detonate this, or if I'd already got rid of their shields, I could hit them with one of the other ones that primes, then hit them with this, and then hit them with overload again. I can essentially get a double whammy with my trigger combos. It's really good, but you'll see in a second the other skill I picked and how this can really work. Well, Dominal Incinerate launches 2 projectiles instead of 1 that seek separate targets. It is actually quite good, but like I said, just with the build and the combos I ended up going with, this ended up being the better choice for me. But that, especially with the radius, it now actually becomes a little bit more effective. But yeah. Right. So the first of our constructs, the assault turret. So as it says, first of all, it deploys. Then if you tap a button, it directs the turret to attack a particular target. So as long as you got your crosshairs over them, it will now specifically attack that as opposed to choosing its own target. Or hold it and it will detonate it. So especially if you've got some close combat enemies that have decided they want to have a bit of a go at your turret, blow it up, and they generally won't live through it, to tell you the truth, because as you can see, it is a decent whack of damage. Right, at rank 2, we up its health. At rank 3, we up its damage. Rank 4, even more health, or its recharge speed. Now, personally, I found that as long as its health was high enough, it didn't tend to really die during combat that much, and therefore the recharge speed wasn't really necessary. I was blowing it up myself more often at the end of combats to purposely reset it so that when I went into the next combat, it was good to go. But yeah. More damage, or Omni-Link. Now this is an interesting little thing. So while its creator is in close proximity, in this case 6 meters being close proximity, it repairs itself and improves the tech power refresh rates. So when I was using the turret, to start with I was only using the turret as my only construct, but once I unlocked the Remnant VI, I also used that, and then just had a third one that it didn't really matter so much. You can go that way, and it's essentially a pet build. All your damage, especially with the engineer profile, is coming from your constructs. It's coming from the turret, it's coming from the Remnant VI, and trust me, they can do a bit. The only reason I switched away from it is, to tell the truth, it made the combat kind of boring, as I sat there and just sort of popped out and did the occasional bit of shooting with my weapon, and I was more or less letting these two do everything else for me. But yeah. Right, then we essentially get a choice between ammos at rank 6. So cryo ammo, so this can prime them, and it gives an armored defense debuff of 100%. So it doesn't do extra damage to armors. What it does is make armor take extra damage from sources. So yeah, bit of a trade-off, but it's got range, which is why I ended up going with cryo ammo versus flamethrower, which is obviously short range. So causes them to burn, again primes them, bonus damage versus armor. As you can see, it's fairly decent stats, but it is close range. If you want that longer range, you really need to go the cryo ammo. Right, then we have Cryo Beam. So this works more or less like you would expect from the name. You freeze stuff. Again, it does a defense debuff versus armor. So this one's only 50% versus the cryo ammo on the gun, but you essentially point and shoot and keep it on them. And yeah, you can cause an explosion with these. So they are a primer. So they are fairly decent. Just one thing to note, as it says here, as you see, no effect on shielded foes. Right, so at rank 2, we get an increase to recharge speed, rank 3 damage. It's all fairly standard. The order occasionally switches, but it's all fairly standard. Rank 4, damage or recharge speed. Again, you'll notice that there's a bit of a theme here. Right, at rank 5 we have battle freeze, so 50% armored defense debuff, so we increase that again. So the starting one was only 50%, we add another 50%, we now get the 100%. Rank 5, you can give it a radius, so essentially whatever you're shooting at, 2 meters around it, will create that radius for you. Snap freeze, so this is the fun part. So normally you would just get an explosion with a primer, do some damage, look awesome. This, on the other hand, when you do it, causes additional damage to nearby foes and snap freezes nearby defenseless foes. So by defenseless, it means it can't have shields and it can't have armor. So as you can see, you get 50% frozen shatter damage, 50% frozen shatter force, and 150% to the radius. So essentially, you explode one thing and now freeze everything within a pretty decent distance, as combo explosions tend to have a fairly decent radius on them. Or cryo trap. So this is interesting, this one. So it's when aimed away from a direct target, it creates a temporary freezing zone that chills enemies who enter. So this would be something you'd use a bit more defensively. If you know you've got some close combat enemies coming towards you, you could set it up as a bit of a trap. They run into it, they get chilled, not necessarily frozen, but it at least slows them down and gives you time to deal with them. Right, energy drain. So this makes up the third one in my particular loadout. So what does energy drain do from the beginning? Well, it's a combo detonator, and it essentially saps the shields or electromagnetic energy in general from an enemy and replenishes your shields. So you get 35% to the shield. You get decent damage, but a lot of damage for burst shields, and a pretty decent little bonus there to the synthetics as well. Rank 2, we get recharge speed. Now it is a little bit different, as it's called effectiveness, so we get both damage and the amount of shields restored with rank 3. Rank 4, effectiveness again, or recharge speed again. Now at rank 5, we get extended drain, so this now turns it into a primer. And then shields restored per second is 6%, and shield restored duration is 4. So this is what really allows me to go great with mine. So essentially is what I can do, depending on the enemies I'm facing. So if they are shielded, I can hit them with this, and it's going to drain their shields very, 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 very quickly. Then I can hit them with incinerate. Then I can hit them with overload. And I've actually just got a double combo, because this now primes. So I hit them, drain their shield, prime them. Hit them with incinerate. It detonates this, still primes them with the incinerate primer, and then I detonate that with overload. Can also work in reverse. So say they didn't have shields, so I've maybe started straight with incinerate, but I've noticed my own shields dropping because I'm taking some damage, so I just hit them with this because they don't have to have shields for you to gain your shields back. And now I can detonate the incinerate and still leave them with this, and still then hit them with overload to detonate this. It's just a great way of comboing off. I found it a very, very effective combo. Anyhow, if you don't want to go with that, you do get auxiliary drain. So that gives us an impact radius and shields restored per additional target at 33%. So it's up to 3 additional targets, so that's 4 targets in total, your primary and 3 additionals within that 8 meter radius. And grants added delayed shield restoration. Yeah, so you get an extra 33. So, you know, potentially useful. Again, I found enemies didn't group that much, but I was playing on normal difficulty. Maybe on the higher difficulty you get a few more enemies and they're just forced to group because of space. But yeah. So at rank 6 we get damage. It's not just straight up damage, we also get bonus damage versus shields and bonus damage versus synthetics. So this just makes it stupidly good versus shields and quite decent versus synthetics. Or if you really feel like helping, you can go Team Drain. So now ally shield restored at 50%. Now they have to be within 8 meter radius. And then an extra 30% shields restored overall. So personally, again, noting that I was only playing on the normal difficulty setting, I didn't find my companions were really ever running out of shields. There was only 1 or 2 fights where it was really pushed. They were bigger fights, big set pieces, more towards the latter half of the game. So yeah, I didn't feel it was that useful, but if you're playing on higher difficulties, maybe it is. So it's something to keep in mind. Then we have Tactical Cloak. For all those people who like to go invisible and live out their predator dreams, we have it right here. 6.5 seconds, sounds short. Really, in the middle of combat, that is a lot of time. Decent recharge speed, and you get a 50% bonus to your power and gun damage, and a 60% bonus to your melee damage while you're stealth. So essentially go stealth, line up someone, shoot them, or hit them with a power, and you're doing quite a decent whack extra damage. Right, recharge speed. So obviously this one doesn't do damage, so we get duration instead. Then at rank 4, recharge speed or damage bonus. So we can still up it. So yeah, as you can see, we're now talking almost doubling our damage with most things here. More duration again, or speed, so we can increase our movement speed while cloaked. So that's obviously particularly useful if you plan on using it for setting up close quarter powers, maybe in combo with some of the biotic close quarter ones, or your own flamethrower. And then also if you're running short range weapons or you're wanting to melee, also fairly good for getting in range without getting shot. So at rank 6 we can get Escape Artist, so the cloak no longer prevents health and shield regeneration. Oh yes, something I probably should have pointed out back here at rank 1. While you're cloaked, you do not regenerate health and shield. So if you want to use it that way, it is not particularly useful. Still, you can still use it to get out of the open and behind cover. But while you're actually cloaked, you will not actually trigger the regeneration. Or we can go with Combat Cloak. So it now remains active after attacking. So usually you'd attack and that's it. It's all over. But you now actually do that and you get another 2 seconds after attack. So you can attack and either walk away a little bit, especially if you've got the speed, or you can essentially attack twice and get the bonus twice. So it really is up to you. Right, so Flamethrower. So I just mentioned it in conjunction with the Cloak because it is a bit of a close range weapon. So it's a primer again, and it's a flamethrower. As you can see, it's going to do more or less what you expect it to. Again, because we're talking fire, we've got bonus armor damage. Right, rank 2, recharge speed. Rank 3, damage. Rank 4, more damage or recharge speed. Rank 5, reach. So we can increase the range. Obviously, potentially quite useful, especially if you don't want to be walking out in the open like this just to get to your enemy. Rank 5 is a lingering burn is your other option. So 25% damage over time plus 50% duration. So essentially once you ignite someone, they stay ignited for a bit longer and take a bit more damage. Rank 6, we get a choice between anti-armor, so we can just really chew through that armor, or blinding heat. So the damage outputs from enemies on fire is reduced by 50%. So you halve the amount of damage coming back at you. Obviously fairly potentially useful if you plan on going this sort of route where you're walking out and potentially having a lot more damage come in at you. Right. So the Remnant VI. So as I said, this only unlocks after a certain point, and then you get an observer that you control essentially. So it works very similar to the turret. Tap it to direct it to attack a particular target. You don't actually explode it, it just deactivates. It sort of just disappears. So its beam damage is damage per second, which, yeah, it's a concentrated beam like you see coming out of the observers. It's pretty decent. So at rank 2 we get an increase to its health, and in rank 3 we get an increase to the damage. Rank 4, health regen and health regen delay reduction. So essentially it'll regen more, and it will take a shorter amount of time before it starts regenning. Recharge speed, again, like the turret, I just found that I was... Well, with this I don't even need to get rid of it like the turret. The turret's a stationary thing. I need to get rid of it so I can replace it. This will follow you around quite handily, actually. It doesn't have that bad a pathing, and the occasional times I thought, oh, no, I've lost it, it'd end up back next to me very quickly and easy. So clearly they've just allowed for it to teleport to you when you get too far away. Rank 5, we've got focus, so again, just more beam damage, or a close combat module where we increase the health. It does also engage them at a closer range, demanding the foe's attention. So you can kind of use it like a tank, realistically. Get in there, and it really does force them to attack it. Then, at rank 6, we can go with detonating missiles. So it adds explosive missiles to its arsenal. They now trigger combo detonators. Decent whack of damage, decent radius. Only every 10 seconds, but, you know, still fairly decent. Or the electric beam. So this primes them for combos. And you get bonus damage to shields, synthetics, and a 1 second stun duration. Now, because I was using this in combo with the assault turret, both at the same time, I essentially made this anti-shield, while the turret's anti-armor, or at least allows for extra damage to be done to armor, as well as freezing normal targets, which is quite fun. So yeah, that's why I've gone with that over necessarily the detonating missiles. If you were just using this, that's potentially useful, but I've gone with that. And then the other thing I ran with those, so I ran the assault turret and the Remnant VI, is invasion, because who doesn't like the idea of enemies taking more damage? So as you can see here, it's a 25% defense debuff, lasts for 15 seconds, does a minute amount of damage, although it can be semi-useful for finishing enemies off, I found, as yeah, it goes over cover. It's really not that hard to have it go over cover, and sometimes it was just useful for finishing enemies off. But there is a spread radius, and this is the fun part. You can essentially get at the chain, because 6 meters is decent. So, rank 2, we get a recharge bonus. Rank 3, we get a duration bonus on this one, because it's a debuff, not really there for the damage. Rank 4, we can go with recharge speed, or it now infects up to 3 enemies near the target location. So back here it just said spread radius, and just says spreads itself to nearby enemies. It never actually directly states how many, so I'm not entirely sure what this takes it up to, but now it's up to 3 enemies. Rank 5, we get a choice between Epidemic, now lasts longer, and spread to more distant enemies. So we get 20% to our spread radius and 40% extra to the duration. Or we can go with Weaken, which is another 10% to the debuff. Then at rank 6, we get Virulence. So when affected enemies fall below 15% health, invasion triggers an explosion that damages the enemy and other nearby enemies. Now, we never get stats on that explosion, so I can't say for certain, but this is what also made it a good finisher. I did not have to wait for them to be really low health. As long as I could see that they were around or below that 15% mark, I could hit them with this, and they blow. It's not actually a very particular big explosion. Like, it's not showy like the combo detonators, but it was still decent. And then we had Sabotage. So essentially you debuff both their defense and offense this way. Like I said, I was just using this. I'd hit it, it'd spread. My machines were doing more damage now, and I was using essentially my companions as detonators. So I made sure all their stuff would detonate the combos set up by them. Right, so that's the active skills. Let's get into our passives. So first we have team support. So the tech really can be played as a very supportive character as opposed to more offensive. So first of all, just straight up 40% to team shields. Just, yep. And as you can see, it's for each skill point invested in the tech group. Obviously a total of 40 as I have all of them. Then shield recovery. So now we get improvement to our team shield delay reduction and shield regeneration and tech construct health regeneration. So yeah. And again, it's with each point skill invested. Right. Rank 3. So this one's just called support. So as you can see, it's 40% power, restoration, and defense. So it's actually shield restoration and defensive effects from powers with each skill point invested. So yeah, shield restoration, always good, especially on the player, although that again could be because of how I was playing. Other people's setups might have more shields, but I found, unlike my companions, my shields actually dropped a decent whack. So there is that, and then defensive effects from powers. Some powers give you defensive effects. This boosts them. Right. Rank 4, we get a choice between squad offense. So as you can see, squad mate power damage and tech construct damage. So because I was running tech constructs in one of my builds, this was a good way to go. And upping my squad mate damage, power damage was never going to hurt. Or we can go with power restoration and defense. So again, we've just essentially boosted that a little bit more if we wanted to really boost up our defense more. Team recovery. So again, we're going with our shield delay reduction, shield regeneration, and tech construct health regeneration. Or tactical revive. So, like I said, difficulty level I was playing, didn't really find my teammates going down that often, so didn't really think this was much use. But it does grant a damage resistance during the squad mate revival and for 5 seconds after. So essentially you can run out, revive them, and hopefully get back to cover. 120 is a decent whack of resistance though. And as you can see, it also applies to any successfully revived squad mates. Then at rank 6, we have our defensive grid. So its damage resistance per ally is 6. So again, tech constructs help in this. So it's increased damage resistance for each conscious squad mate or tech construct within 8 meters. So the increase applies to the user and those squad mates and tech constructs. So with 2 tech constructs and 2 allies, that's 4. 4 by 6 is 24. So, you know, it's a nice little boost to your damage resistance. Or life support. So health regeneration bonus and health regeneration cap. So the cap's not bad because you only realistically will, without any of the other bonuses on any of the other trees, get 25%. Or thereabouts. It never states anywhere how much, but it appeared to be about 25%. So you get the bonus to how fast, and then you also get an increase of 50%. So it's 25, so now you'll get more about 37, 38. Not showing whether they round up or down. So yeah, it's decent. But again, generally didn't find it was that much of an issue. And it's for people within that, but it's after using a tech power. This is the thing. This suggests it's just passive. It's not. It's only after you use a tech power. Which again, if you've got a whole bunch of robots out, you're not really using tech powers that often. So yeah. Now into the offensive stuff. So straight up tech power damage. Just good. More damage from it. Yay! Boost our recharge speeds. Tech detonator damage bonus. So obviously, especially with the combo I'm running, this is just ridiculously good. Right, anti-armor. So the reason I ended up going anti-armor over anti-shield is because in the build I have here, I run two different things that do quite a large amount of damage to shields. Didn't really feel the need to have more damage versus shields, whereas upping damage versus armor, both for the one that is already doing bonus damage to armor and for the others that don't really do any extra damage versus armor, this was just a nice little bonus to help me against armored opponents. Detonators, again, massive damage to the bonus. Well, decent damage to the bonus to the damage. And with the build I have, very useful because it's all about getting those combos off multiple times in some fights. Or you can go anti-synthetic. So you'll notice here it's really specific, is only for electric damage bonus. So realistically, Overload and the Shield Stealer. That's the only two powers that and I can't even confirm the second one. Overload's the only dedicated electric power. Now it may include the beam from the Remnant VI. I can't be 100% certain on that because it's not technically an electric power, but it is electric based. Rank 6, Elemental Tech. So Elemental Defense debuff is 35%. So essentially enemies suffer ongoing effects of the user. So they take increased damage from heat, cold, and electricity. So you can multiply it a bit. So you can hit them with one, you hit them with another one, and they take a bit more damage. Or technical rounds. So increases gun damage for a short period after using a tech power. So it's a 30% damage bonus. When it says 5, I have to presume 5 seconds. Usually they have an S after everything. So yeah, I can't imagine they're giving it to you for 5 minutes somehow. So I found this useful because with all the recharge speed bonuses and whatnot, 5-second duration, not that bad. I could usually go from one to the next and keep this damage bonus going quite a bit. And then along with the fact that I use assault rifles with the power-ups from the combat group, I could really ramp up damage quite handily. Right, auxiliary systems. So this is sort of a bit of a cover-all. They're just generally useful sort of things. So we get increase to our tech effect duration. Again, it's for each skill point invested in the group. Yep, especially as I use a couple of things that have durations on them. It's quite nice to get that bonus. Force. Tech doesn't really rely on force that much anyhow, but it's there to make things better, I guess. Constructs. More damage, more health from your constructs. Never a bad thing. Right. So rank 4 here was weapon mass reduction. Now, I went with this because I wanted to essentially use an assault rifle and a sniper rifle. And without this bonus, I essentially was quite a large amount overweight, which really badly affects your cooldowns on your abilities. So I had to switch back to an assault rifle and pistol until I could afford this, because the sniper rifle was mostly as my secondary weapon for sniping, either counter sniping or just hitting some rather annoying enemies, and also it's better against armor than the assault rifle. Or we can go to priming, 100% combo priming rate. So there are some attacks that don't prime instantly. Your flamethrower, your cryo beam, the cryo ammo from the turret, that sort of thing. They all take several hits or a certain amount of time before they are considered to have primed. I mostly wasn't using those ones, so I didn't feel it was necessary. And like I said, because of the weapon combo I wanted to use, this was the better way to go. Rank 5, Enduring Tech. So again, more tech effect duration or impact dilation. So tech area of effect radius. So including the area attacks of tech constructs. This one's actually specific, saying it also affects your constructs. So that would be like the missiles, the flamethrower, that sort of stuff. So not all tech powers affect a radius. Some you can add it in, others just never do. And I felt this is better because it meant longer burning, longer stuns, longer help with my shield, all that sort of stuff. And at rank 6 we have shield feedback. So now it begins shield regeneration immediately, eliminating any delay when attack power is activated. But it's only once every 12 seconds. So you do want to make sure you're not relying on this. Still can be quite useful. Or Omnivents. So improves all recharge rates for currently recharging powers by 50% when attack power is activated. Only functions once every 15 seconds. Realistically, with that last sentence there, it makes it worthless, as my recharge speeds are all below 15 seconds. Quite handily by this point, I might add. Usually by the time I'd got through using all three and comboing off, the first one that I'd use was very close to already finishing its cooldown. So yeah, I just found this better. Just because occasionally it was nice to get that boost. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Right, so that's it. That is all of the tech tree covered off on, and all of the skills now covered off on. I hope you found this informative, and join us again when I cover something else.